Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Reads Podcast, the show where I talk about books and only books and everything book related. Today, I am joined by Mr. Gregg Owen. Greg is a former Chicago murder prosecutor who took a very unusual path to the courtroom. Before law school, he was a touring rock musician who performed across the Midwest and opened shows for bands like The Doors, but a personal turning point led him to leave music, cut his hair, and apply for an internship with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. His first book, Convergence, tells the true story of a brutal double murder that was solved in days but didn't go to trial for 4 years. The case was unfolded in the middle of the courtroom culture so corrupt it would later trigger the FBI's historic Operation Greylock investigation. And today he's here. He's going to share a little bit of some behind the scenes realities of homicide trials, the process of the book, and share more about kind of the inspiration behind the book. So, Greg, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the podcast today. I am really looking forward to it. Welcome to Southern Reads.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and share with your listeners what we're talking about and the subject of the book and my past career.
So, to kind of give my audience just kind of a little background, share with them a little bit about what you do for a living and kind of how that's led up to you becoming an author.
Well, this whole journey began with me being a musician. I grew up in an era where I had learned piano. My mother forced me to take piano lessons when I was young, and then about age 15, I had seen the Beatles and the kind of frenzy that was going on around these musicians, and I said, I'd like to be in, I mean, I like music, but I'd love to be on stage. And so my friend he had a guitar, we started a little band, and a year later, we were playing everywhere. I mean, we put together a group, did very well. Like you were saying, I was 17, 18 when I opened up for The Doors, Janis Joplin, Jefferson Airplane, Buffalo Springfield. I mean, a lot of big groups. And it was at a time when even the big groups weren't treated, so royally. So we would share dressing rooms with these same people, and that's all I wanted to do, was be a musician. But I'd had a couple records with these bands we put out, and our managers always had lawyers involved, and they would give us papers to sign, and I don't remember ever reading one of them. And we were literally signing away our songwriters' rights. We signed away our royalty. I mean, we just gave them everything, because we didn't know what we were signing. So I went through college, and I played. I never stopped playing. In fact, when I got done with college, I wasn't going to be drafted at that point because they had said, my lottery number was high. So the band I was in was the American Breed, and we had a song called Bend Me, Shape Me, which was a 3 million selling record. But, there was a point when we didn't want to play that style of music, so the group broke up, and my friend and I, the singer, Bill, we began to start our own band. And he said to me one day, he said, Greg, you're pretty smart. You went to college, you got through it, even though you're in the band. Why don't you take some law classes? And I go, are you crazy? What do you mean? What's that mean, law classes? He goes, well, man, how many times have we been screwed? Well, I know, but I said, law classes? Well, I dismissed it. But then about a couple of weeks later, I started thinking, maybe he's right. And we were still putting the band together, so I wasn't under that pressure. I was done with college. And so I made a decision, well, I'll see what happens. So I applied to some law schools in Chicago. I got accepted by them all, which I was shocked. And then I made the decision I was going to start law school, but it was in January, middle of the year. So when I started, I walked in, I had hair on my shoulders, braids in my hair, earrings, you name it. I mean, I was full rock and roll. And I met with the dean of students that first day, and I said, I'm in a band. And the guy looked at me and he goes, pretty obvious, because at that time, the other law students had short hair, were wearing sport jackets. I mean, I was way out of, I was like a freak in that that building, but I didn't care. So he said, well, what that got to do with anything? I said, well, I'd like to go to school every other semester. I said, I know it'll take longer. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, my band, we play locally in the 3-state area, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, from January to May, because it's cold and there's not many festivals or tours. I said, but from beginning June to January, we tour. So I'd like to go to school only in the semesters when I'm playing locally. For some reason, he agreed to that. So I continued to play and tour all through law school. I never stopped. At the end of that, when I was now my last semester, it was like almost 5 years it took me because I went every other semester. I was going through some personal challenges. There was a woman that I was deeply in love with, and she ended up having an affair with a singer in another band, which was sort of debilitating for a while. And then I'd seen some, like I saw a keyboard player named Keith Emerson, who was real famous. I mean, he was so unbelievable. He made every player feel inferior almost. And the fact that I didn't sing, I thought to myself, well, what's my future going to be like if this band here doesn't make it? I mean, I can't sing. I'm good, real good, but I'm not like that. So that it was bothering me. I had made a decision. I was walking down a stairway in my law school, and there was a big bulletin board, and the bulletin board had a lot of job opportunities. There was a lot. This is like February of '75. There was a lot of opportunities for lawyers. I had never looked at that board because I never intended to be a lawyer. I mean, I was just there to get the education. So as I'm looking at this board in the far right-hand corner, very at the top, there was a little 4x6 index card. Something drew my eye to it, and I looked up at it, and I had to stand on my tiptoes a little bit because it was so high up in this board. And it said, Cook County State's Attorney's Office will be in room 204 on, like the next day, it was Thursday, this was a Wednesday, to interview for possible law interns and ultimately assistant state's attorneys, prosecutors at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I looked at it, and something inside me, I mean, it was very sort of scary at first because it was pretty overwhelming. And it said, you better do that. You better do that. I looked around from my left and right. I said, who's saying this to me? And then it did it again. And then it did it again, and it got louder. It was like, and I had never done acid or anything, so I wasn't tripping. I mean, it was definitely coming from inside. I immediately went to the payphone, called my mother, said, could you ask your friend if he would cut my hair tonight, and could you take me to the mall to get some suit? My mother thought I was crazy. But I did it. I went and got my hair cut that night. My mother got me a suit. I showed up for the interview, and the guy goes, well, Greg, this is your lucky day. I go, what's that mean? He goes, well, the Supreme Court just passed a new rule that said if you're a senior law student and your grades are good and you're approved by a governmental agency, you can try misdemeanor criminal cases as if you're a real lawyer. I didn't even know what any of that. I had never been in a courtroom in my life. I knew nothing about what he was talking about, but something kept telling me, go along, go along. So he said, could you show up Monday? When's your class scheduled? I said, well, I'm done at noon. Could you show up at 12:30 at this particular location and meet the supervisor of this particular district where these misdemeanors were held, prosecutor, supervisor? So I did. And that very same day, he sent me to a courtroom that was so crowded. I mean, there were people yelling, smoking, smell of hot dogs. I mean, I'm thinking, this is what it is to be a lawyer? So I figured, well, I got to follow through. I told this man I'd show up. So I, get through the crowd, and there's a young prosecutor calling out names. He said to me, are you the law student? I go, yeah. He goes, well, here, take these and call these people names out. To make a long story short, within 2 weeks, I loved it. I don't know why. I totally fell in love with it. I tried almost 300 misdemeanor cases before I passed the bar. And so then I made the decision. I told my bandmates I'm going to leave. I found my replacement. And so for about 6 or 7 months at that point, I went to this courtroom every day and worked. So by the time I got finished with that and was ready to take the bar exam, I was pretty good, because I'd done so many cases. And I was hired immediately as a prosecutor. And I was sent within a year to a location called 26 in California, which is the main criminal court building for Chicago, Cook County. I mean, it's where all the bad cases are tried. It sits right in front of the huge Cook County jail, which I believe is the second largest jail in America. Well, while I was there, I began working in courtrooms trying murder cases. So by about the end of 1979, November, I had tried about 40 felony jury trials, and they were all murders because we just said there was so much crime, we had no time to try anything but murders. So I got a call from my brother. My brother said to me, remember my friend, he got murdered a few years ago? I said, nah, not really. And then I said, oh, that's right. Whatever happened? He goes, well, your office said they're going to drop that case. I go, that was a double murder. He goes, I know. I go, that's impossible. Let me see what's going on. So just because he asked me, I made some phone calls, and I found out that case had been assigned to a court building where murder cases were never, ever assigned, ever. So I thought, well, that's pretty unusual. So I took a ride in a cab and I went downtown to this Daily Center, it was called, and I went to the floor where the state's attorneys there had offices. They tried mainly like, felony shoplifting or a simple robbery, not with a gun, nothing serious. And now here we sat a double murder case, and I found out that the judge who the case was put into his courtroom was close friends with one of the defendant's lawyers. So that was pretty unusual too. So I find somebody that I know is working there, and I say, I'm trying to find this case. I told him the name, and he goes, man, I'm going to give you some great advice, Greg. Do not touch that case. It's poison. He said, I would not try that case with a 10-foot pole or whatever. I said, what's the problem? He goes, man, you check it out. So we went to this office where the case should have been, went through file cabinets, couldn't find it. Finally, the guy I knew gets on his hands and knees, goes under a desk, and he pulls out a file, and it happens to be that case. I mean, you talk about burying a case. I mean, it was literally, and I said, what's the deal? He goes, well, there's an eyewitness. He's now taking the fifth, meaning he won't testify. And the evidence, which we had recovered in a search warrant 4 years before, the defense attorneys put on a motion to have that evidence suppressed. The judge in the courtroom granted it, so the state couldn't use it. We took it up on appeal. The appellate court reversed the judge. But then when we went to get the evidence to actually go through it, it was all gone. I go, what do you mean gone? He goes, yeah, it was stolen from the evidence locker. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I take the file anyway and I look at it. And the guy's like 24 years old then, rich, from a real rich, prominent family. I mean, great education. And it just aggravated me, the fact that this guy was going to walk on a double murder. These victims were not going to get a voice. It was just going to go away. So I called my partner and I said, I want you to try this case with me. And we had never lost as a team. So he agreed. We got it transferred back to 26th of California, and then began the whole story that's the basis of Convergence. And the reason I wrote it, or we wrote it, my Jonathan Dixon is the writer, I'm the storyteller, is because when I look back after all those years, back then, there were so many coincidences that occurred for this to actually end up in a courtroom. It's almost hard. I mean, you read it, and other than the fact that it's all true, it almost sounds like it was made up. So that's the point. And I mean, there was another thing that didn't mean anything to me at the time, but on March 3rd, 1976, I was taken the last day of the Illinois bar. The next day I was going to LA to be with the band I used to be in because they're going to start recording an album. So I figured I'd hang out with them. It takes 2 months to get the results from the bar exam. So as I'm taking that exam, a man, Tony Messina, about 53-year-old man, has been trying to find his son for 2 days. His son works with him, and he can't find him. His son was 24 years old at the time, Gio Messina, and he can't find him. So finally, Tony decides he's going to drive down to Gio's girlfriend's apartment in north side of Chicago, in Lakeview area. And he gets there, he sees his son's car. So he's really concerned because he's been calling, there's no cell phones in those days, by the way. So he goes up to the building, he gets a janitor to let him in the building, but the janitor won't let him in the apartment. So they go and they're pounding on the door where this girl's apartment was, nothing. They're calling on the phone, and finally he convinces the janitor to open the door. He opens the door, they walk in, and there lays the girlfriend in a huge pool of blood, and his son is laying in the bathroom under the sink, dead. They're both passed away. They're both been murdered. So I get home from the bar exam that very same day, and I see a newspaper, Daily News, Chicago, putting papers in the paper box, and it was an evening edition, like 6 o'clock, and it said, contractor, actress found slain, and there was an article went up and down the side of the front page, and a picture of a very attractive young woman who was 22. Her name was Tinker Moore. She was the girlfriend. And, I wanted to read it, but I had no change in my pocket, so I go in my house. My concern is going to LA, packing my stuff, getting later, and I get a call. And it's my brother, Jay. And he says, man, I'm so bummed out. My friend got murdered and his girlfriend. I go, who is that? I never heard it. I never met these people, didn't know them. And he says, yeah. I said, well, where'd they get murdered? He goes, right, not too far from where you live. I go, wait a second. Was your friend a contractor? Well, his dad owns a big, Oh my God, is his girlfriend? Yeah, she just finished Goodman Theater School. I said, oh man, I'm so sad. I mean, I'd come and help you out or meet the people, but I wasn't a lawyer yet. But I got to go to L.A. So one of the convergences is my brother calls me on March 3rd, 1976, tells me about it, and then 4 years later, I'm the lead prosecutor on the case prosecuting that very person who killed his friend and the girlfriend. That's a pretty big convergence, especially because all I cared about that day was going to L.A. to do music, and I ended up being the prosecutor of the case. So that coupled with all the numerous convergences that took place, I mean, things as simple as this. I'm going through the court file. You know, I had other trials I was putting on, but this was, we're trying to get organized about 2 months before. And I'm in the court file and I'm organizing things to get really ready for this trial. And as I pull a file up, I notice on the bottom there's a sticky note, which I hadn't seen before. So I take this sticky note off and I'm holding it in my hand and I'm reading it. And as I'm reading it, one of my investigators walks up to me. Now the note has 4 lines, 4 things it says. It first says Bill Wright, Wright. Then it says pilot. It says TWD Aviation and a Chicago phone number. That means nothing to me. And so my investigator walks up, he goes, oh, I went to high school with the guy that owns that aviation service. I go, you got to be kidding me. He goes, so I don't know what it means. He goes, why don't we just take a ride to Midway Airport and we'll ask. So we go down there. We go to this guy's office, the person who owns the flying service. They charter planes. They had a big hangar and everything. Now the office was a mess. There was stuff all over the place, a bunch of old file cabinets. So I tell the guy, so well, here's why I'm here. And blah, blah, blah. I'm telling him background. He goes, well, yeah, I know Billy Wright. He used to work for me. I go, you're kidding me. Yeah, he says he was flying charters and giving flight lessons, but he said he wasn't making enough money, so he got into another business. No, he didn't say what it was at that point. So I said, he said, well, what is this about? I go, tell him again. He goes, well, when did this happen? I go, oh, we think the people were killed on March 2nd. So he pulls his file drawer, one of these file drawers open, and now when you charter or rent a plane or whatever, you got to tell the people that you're chartering it from who's going to be in the plane, how much they weigh. There's a reason for that. So he pulls out a February 28th file, and it's for this guy, Bill Wright, as the pilot. He was the pilot in command. And on it, there's 3 names, Gio Messina, Tinker Moore, and Mitchell Weinger, the killer. So it's the first time I had any way of tying these people together. I mean, nobody else knew that they even knew each other. Something, and he goes, well, he might not be able to help you out too much. And so I say to him, was he past dead? He goes, no, 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 no. He got into the drug smuggling business and he took a DC-6 4-engine airliner and flew it up from Guatemala. He was flying Chicago when he got low on gas and he made a emergency sort of crash landing. And the plane burst in fire. It was like 2 a.m. And he had 9 tons of pot and 100 pounds of cocaine. And he escaped through the window. He had no co-pilot, just him. And he was arrested by these police in eastern Tennessee, near Johnson City, Tennessee. And he's in jail there and he's looking at life. Now this is 1979, 80. And he was a light-skinned black guy, which didn't help things out when you're in the deep south. So I call Mike again. I say, we should go see this guy. He goes, fine. So we get a charter. We fly down to Tennessee, and we go into this little town. I mean, it was right out of Andy and Mayberry. It was, I don't know what else to say about it. We go into this sheriff's office. He goes, oh, you here to see that boy got across the street? I say, yeah, yeah, yeah. He goes, well, what's this about? I give him a little background. He tells his deputy to take us across to the jail. We go in, and they're sitting in a cage is Bill Wright. He's about 34 at the time. I was like 30, 31. He walks up to us. He thought we were from the FBI or something, DEA, because, we got suits on. It was sort of a federal case because the stuff was flown from South America and it was all drugs. I said, no, 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 no. We're at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in Chicago. I said, we're here about a murder case. And he immediately put his head down. I mean, his composure totally changed. And he goes, I know. I go, what do you mean you know? He goes, I know. He goes, I wish I would have said something. I go, said something about what? He goes, well, I flew them. I said, we know you did. He goes, well, when I flew him to Lake Geneva because he said, I assumed that Gio was flying there to pick up a couple kilos of cocaine. Well, his girlfriend and this guy Mitch were in the back seat of the plane. It's a four-passenger. He said, and when he got out of the plane, they started making out. I go, what? Oh my God! I mean, now there's maybe even a motive, right? So I go across the street after that, back to the sheriff, my partner and I, and he goes, so can that boy help you out? I go, oh, you have no idea. He could help us win this murder case. He goes, is that right? He picks up his phone and he makes a phone call. Now, we don't know who he's talking to, but all I know is I recall hearing this. You know, he goes, you hurt my wife's feelings. He says, you didn't show up to our family reunion. She made your favorite dish. Oh, I know, but you're so busy. That's what he said. We can't hear the other end. He goes, well, I got these two boys here from Chicago. What's your name again? I said, Gregg Owen. He goes, yeah, they got this murder case, and they say that boy we got in the jail, that pilot, he can help them out. Well, here, you talk to him. So he goes to hand the phone to my partner. My partner was like, well, I don't know who this is. So then I take the phone and I go, well, hi, this is Gregg Owen. I'm an assistant state's attorney from Chicago, Cook County. He goes, well, hello, Greg. This is the governor of the great state of Tennessee. The sheriff's cousin was the governor of Tennessee at that time. I run the case by the governor. And the governor says, so you're telling me this boy can come up to Chicago? He kept calling him boy, of course, and help you win a double murder? Yeah. He goes, give that phone back to that rascal. He called his cousin a rascal. So if they have a short call, gives it back to me. He goes, here's what we're going to do. We're going to reduce the charges from whatever he had to like less than 5 grams of marijuana. We don't worry about the cocaine. Now all he's got to do is go to Chicago and say what you need. I go, no, 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 Governor. He's got to go to Chicago and tell the truth. The governor laughs. 2 months later, they brought him to Chicago. He testified and he helped win the case. Now, what's the odds of me finding a sticky note in a file that leads to probably the most important witness in the case? That's another convergence. And that really happened. The transcripts bear that out. So, I mean, that's pretty much a lot of the pieces of the case. But there's more. I mean, there's a lot more of coincidences. And Mike and I, my partner at the time, back when we were young, we said, we've tried some of the most unusual cases that I've ever heard of. He says, and what you see on TV is nowhere near as good as what it really is. So we made a decision that someday we were going to tell about our cases, but from the prosecution's point of view. Most true crime stories are told either by a defendant, a defense attorney, a police officer, somebody who just looked into the case. But you don't rarely see real murder cases where the actual participants, like me, are telling the story and telling people what goes on in the prosecution war room, what goes on during sidebars, how we prepare the strategies, how we determine what witness to call what order, how we make a decision about where we're going to stand at certain times. It's all strategic. It's not what people may think. And that's probably why we did so well, because we really thought it through. And our mission was simple: give the victims a voice. They're not here to speak for what happened, so we're going to sit there and talk for them. And that's how we approached our cases.
Wow, that's such a really unique story, and being able to help him out and really get closure for all this stuff is really it's amazing. So when it came to releasing Convergence, what was kind of the reaction and some of the feedback that you had received about the book when it first got published?
Well, you see, the problem is, as you probably know and your listeners know, if you've never written a book before, nobody knows who you are. And it's not like the old days where you could advertise on TV or radio or news, anything. There's nothing other than social media. Well, even if you're with a big time publisher, they just don't make that investment. It's very difficult to break through. So I made the decision, well, I'm going to create my own publishing company. And I'll make the mistakes and I'll learn from them. So that's what we did. So the book was released. I had hired some people to do marketing and to do some press agent stuff, and they did a terrible job. So I said, well, I can't do any worse. So I signed myself up with Instagram in October. The book came out right about that time of 25. And I'd never done that in my life. And what I did was I created an account, started talking about the stuff I had done. And I got 112,000 followers now in 9 months. So apparently people appreciate prosecutor telling about things that he was personally involved in. And because of that, now we're going to begin talks with a producer to do a series about this not just this book. We got four other books we're writing the second one right now, and they all involve specific cases that myself and my partner tried, which were at the time heralded as some of the most amazing cases in Chicago. And at the same time, while we were trying cases from 75 to 84, there was an investigation of the largest scale of investigation by the federal government into judicial corruption in the history of the country, all in Chicago. It ended up being called Operation Greylord. And part of the book talks about the main undercover agent who became key to getting these convictions. There were 16 judges went to prison, 47 lawyers, 8 court clerks, 8 deputy sheriffs, a bunch of policemen. Excuse me. So that was going on simultaneously. So while we're working this case, there's agents undercover because the corruption was rampant. We all saw it, but what are you going to do about it? Well, somebody decided they were going to do something. So that's part of the story. We were so very paranoid as we were going ready to do the case that somebody was going to get bribed. Attempted to bribe me the evening of my before my closing argument. They offered me $50,000 cash, which incensed me because, first of all, to think that somebody would even think I would do it, that's one thing. That's such an insult to even think it. And then the second thing, of course, it's a crime. So here I am ready to do an argument in a very important case. And they actually had a meeting I met with somebody that I knew who asked me, he wanted to talk to me. I didn't know why, made a big deal out of it. And during the meeting, he starts defending the bad guy and saying that we've got the wrong person on trial, blah, 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 blah. And that his family and this guy's families and friends are very, they want to express their appreciation for people who do the right thing. And he had a duffel bag with $50,000 in cash, $100 bills wrapped, and he says, "This is yours. All you got to do is tone down your closing argument." Well, I looked at him and he said an expletive, and I said, "Don't you ever talk to me as long as you live." Called my boss, called my partner, and the next day I gave that argument. So it was, the book is about perseverance, justice, fighting corruption. It was the worst corruption, and it's documented in the history of America, was going on right that moment, right in Chicago. It was just disgusting. It was so bad. And it cleaned it up quite a bit, I'll tell you. Things changed. But, that's what we had to deal. We had to worry about jurors being bribed, judges being bribed, witnesses being bribed. It was an ongoing battle. And we had to really, as much as prosecute the case, we had to worry about this corruption that was totally, it wasn't just, oh, we got a witness, we're going to put him on. No, is the witness going to take money? How do we make sure? What do we do? How do we, it was very challenging, especially, you're 29, 30 years old. You're a young guy. No, you've got a lot of experience, huge amount of experience. But still, nobody's equipped to deal with that until you're in the midst of it. So that's part of the book too. How we handled that rampant corruption that was going on around us.
When the book came out, were you nervous at all about how people would react to it or how the general public would perceive it as, or were you worried about maybe higher officials kind of sending hatred or any kind of feedback about that, or were you just like, I'm gonna release it, it's gonna tell the truth, whatever happens, happens?
No, that's exactly how I felt. I'm telling the truth. People, on the inside of this, they knew it too. So I felt all I'm doing is exposing something that historically has already been established, the level of corruption. But I'm telling it from the point of view of a person who was literally there. I was in those courtrooms. I knew those lawyers and judges. So I could give a perspective on what it was like firsthand because I was there. So in coming up with the idea to publish it, I didn't really worry about that. But I just thought these cases, like we said years before, 40 years before, these cases are so unbelievable. And I found somebody to do a majority of the writing who I was really impressed with, Jonathan Dixon. And I mean, once the book was finished, my gut, my instinct, my intuition, my inner spirit, whatever, I said, this book is going to be very, very, very important, very important. And the reviews, we've got like 87 five-star reviews on Amazon. Our Goodreads is like 4.65. I mean, so the reviews have been outstanding, but the process of getting people to be aware of the book, that's the work. And that was part of why I did the Instagram. We're starting a Substack in about 3 to 4 weeks. Just recently, within the last few days, they created a website for me so people can see more of the clips and find out a little about who I was and why the book is relevant. The website is Gregg Owen 26th, like 26 th.com. So somebody can go there and we're going to start putting up some excerpts from the second book, which is called Pursuing Kings, which is about when I was first appointed to be the first chief of gang prosecution shortly after this case in Chicago, and what it was like to go after some of the most violent, evil people the Lord ever created. And that was our role. And so I was the leader of that group of gang prosecutors and police officers. We declared a war on gangs is what we did at the time because the gang violence was so out of control. I mean, it was so bad. Chicago had like 900 murders in 1 year, and it was almost all gang related. So, and innocent people were getting shot in the process. And that was I mean, it's bad enough you shoot another gang member. When you start shooting, you miss and you kill some 4-year-old girl, 2-year-old boy. Yeah, that's really bad. And that had to stop. So that was our mission. And that's the basis of the second book, Pursuing Kings. So as far as how have I felt, I always felt it was going to be successful. I mean, that's how I live my life, though. I mean, I don't embark on something with a negative attitude. I mean, I view the situation, I get the feeling from inside me, and the feeling says, yes, do this. And if you do it right and you get your guidance, the good Lord gave you a brain, and your intuition is your inside spirit, so to speak. You listen to that and then engage your brain in some of your heart, you can do just about anything you want if you're within reason, And so I knew the story was unbelievable, and it's been borne out. I mean, the reviews, and like I say, now we've got some people that are interested, possibly discussing buying the rights to it. So, I mean, the book will get big because of the other things that have occurred, and because we didn't do traditional publishing, because I just didn't want to trust somebody else taking this content and this story and misinterpreting it and not presenting it the way it should be. So that's why I made my decision we made a decision to create our own publishing branch, which we are now seeking additional authors, other authors, will publish their books if they have something we think is right. And that's called Division 26. We started out with a book, we called the company at the beginning 26th Street Books. And the reason we changed it because we're not going to be just a book, we're going to be a media company. Books, video, social media presence, podcast. So now we're opening the door to other people to come in, and we've sort of known how to start the process for an unknown author, and we're going to employ that to help other people.
I know that you had also announced that you are coming out with a second book. How is this kind of, did you ever expect to be a full-time author now, or do you still do some of your crime work on the side?
No, I don't know. I mean, I have numerous friends that are lawyers, judges. So we get together, have dinner and pretty often, and just discuss the old days and stuff that might be going on now. But no, I'm full-time promoting the work we did, particularly for my partner, Mike. He passed away 4 years ago, just as we were starting this project.
Mhm.
And I made a decision that this is going to be dedicated to him, and I'm going to make sure it happens so he gets the recognition he deserves also for what he did. He was a great lawyer and a great person. So that's part of what motivates me also.
For people that pick up the book and they read it for the first time, what is the big takeaway and the main thing that you want readers to walk away with?
That if you put your mind to something and you really believe in it, don't sit in the sidelines. Get involved. I mean, I think that's relevant even today. Okay, so everybody said this case can't be won. The victims were just doing drugs, and I said that's not how it works. I mean, no, there's no death penalty for doing drugs, and not just that. Why would you let somebody with money through corruption get away with something? Well, shouldn't we all feel that way about we live our lives today? I mean, you can't just sit back in the sidelines all the time. You've got to act. But if you believe in what you're doing, and you really do, what you can accomplish is almost beyond belief. I mean, when I first saw this case, and I mean, we had a witness. The only witness was taken the fifth. I had to convince this guy to testify. I mean, you think I wasn't scared? How about him? He's testifying against a rich, prominent kid from a family that had a lot of money. Who's to say they wouldn't have done something to him? Well, I had to convince him to do it, to testify, and his ex-girlfriend. So, you know, it's called perseverance and believing yourself and listening to your inner voice and acting on it. You know, people today are so busy and they're not listening, see? So they never take the time to let what's inside guide them. And I think if people think about it in your life, maybe even yours, if there's times when you've got this sense about something, maybe working with somebody, and something tells you, nah, you probably shouldn't do that, and you go, no, and your brain says, no, 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 and then you do it, and what happens? It turns out bad. It works the same way for good. If something tells you, and because you got to hear it, and you got to look at the signs, and I know that sounds corny, but I'm a living proof. I mean, it's the way to go, and so. You know, if you're a reader and you see the book, you're going to understand what it takes to fight the worst cases of corruption. Two young guys, 30 and 31, going up against a defense team. One of the lawyers had represented Al Capone, the leaders of the mob. I mean, these were powerful lawyers, a lot older than us, a lot more experience. And yet we were so committed to doing the right thing and making sure these young people that were murdered, that somebody spoke for them, we won. The jury was out less than 2 hours. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, and also, don't allow people, if you believe in something, don't allow people don't let other people's input sometimes affect you. For example, I was in law school, it was maybe my second year, 8 years before this trial. And I had a professor, and I had long hair, and the course was called Trial Advocacy, how you learn to try a case. I thought I did pretty good. So it was a semester class. At the end of the semester, the professor says to me, "Oh, Greg, could you stay after?" You know, he gave everybody their grades but me. So everybody leaves. I'm sitting there, you know, and he puts a desk close to me, and he goes, he says, "I got your grade right here." Now, the reason I took this guy's class is because one of my other classmates said, "You got to take his class because he never gives less than a B." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's good for me." So he says, "It's the lowest grade I've ever given, ever." I'm like, "Oh, that's a shock." I mean, I thought it, you know, and he says, "I gave you a C minus and you should have got a D." He says, "You do not have what it takes to be a trial lawyer. You don't have the look. You don't have the presence." I mean, he just went on with a list of stuff. I mean, I didn't really care about being it, but the fact that he beat me so hard, I mean, it was sort of debilitating. Well, guess what? That guy that did that was one of the main lawyers against this guy, this Mitchell Weinger, in this double murder case. And we beat him in less than 2 hours. And when the case was all done and the jury left the courtroom, he walked by me and I said, "Hey," his name was Sherman Maggots, I said, "Hey, Mr. Mag," I called him Mr. because he was "Hey, Mr. Maggots, not bad for a C minus student, huh?" So there, see, I did not allow the way he treated me to affect how I move forward in my life. I believed in myself. I said, I don't care what he says. I'm going to be good at this. And I was. I mean, and those are the types of things that occurred, which made me motivated me to do this, is to tell people, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you've got a story to tell and you're not a crackpot and you honestly believe in it, put it down in writing, and then analyze it and try to view things from behind other people's eyes. It's not because remember you've written something, but you want other people to appreciate what it is. So just think in terms of, okay, am I saying this in such a way that I can captivate people in whatever it may be? I don't care what you're writing about, but you still have to have something that people want to read. And if you have that and you feel it, don't give up. Do not give up. When you give up, then it'll never happen. Don't give up on a dream, because the way dreams don't come true is when you stop attempting. So that's what I've gotten out of this experience. Even in writing now, I mean, I, I, I'm 77 years old, okay? I've never been on social media in my life, and yet I've got 112,000 followers. How did that happen? Because it's meant to happen. Because I believed that what we had was really good. And my belief is a big part of believing is a big part of you getting the signs and stuff. You generate positive energy when you are positive. And that's how I think that's part of what the book says too.
And I think so many people will find so much inspiration in this too, being told that this is not for you, this is not something that you want to perceive or go through, and then just to turn right around and be able to really prove them wrong. I think a lot of people are going to find so much worth in that. So I think that this is such a huge inspirational story for so many people that are probably have been in the same boat. um, well, Greg, I appreciate you so, so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the podcast to share your story and share this wonderful um, book that you've come out with. For people that are interested in the book and they would love to check the book out for themselves, where can they go to learn more information?
Of course, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, it's available. Um, and like I said, going to my website, we've got a promotion going on right now. And so if you go to the website and there's a form you fill out, and we'll send you the first 3 chapters of Convergence, even if you haven't read it yet, so that you can get a little idea what it's about. And I think the website is greggowen26.com, 26th.com. So I think, I mean, people, you only need 1 or 2 chapters to be hooked. And I'm not saying it because it's us. I'm saying it because I can view it from other people's eyes and what we've been reported and told. And so I think it's important. And one of the things I've always thought is, I've been trained to be in front of a lot of people to talk and deliver a message. And I think I'm at a point in my life where I have something to say that I've experienced, that I've believed in over the course of my life. And I just want to let people know that it's all very possible if you believe in yourself and act accordingly, and don't do it for a negative or sinister reason. Do it for true honesty and trying to help or just believing in it. That's what it's about.
And I will put all of his information in the description box below, his website, his socials, everything will be down there for you guys to find. So just check the description box in the show notes to find those links accordingly. Feel free to follow the podcast on the socials. You can reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at southern.reads. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And feel free to also check out the website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show as well as the other shows that I do. Feel free to follow or subscribe so you get notified of when new episodes like this come out in the future. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in to today's episode. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next episode of Southern Reads.